Hi, welcome to episode 34. And today, where are we landing today, Eve?
Today we have a monumental event happening,
Oh
which
boy.
is the arrest of Yo-Hanan by the
Oh,
Romans.
okay. Oh, yeah,
Actually,
that's
not
right. That's kind of how we left off on the
yes,
last one.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So to summarize, Yeshua has been teaching for a few months around the lake, and again, we will present the maps so people know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So the town of Bethsaida, Capernaum, Gennesaret, all these northern west part of the lake, basically. And he's usually accompanied by a small group of disciples, and their paths are taking them, all the way, sometimes to Samaria, and this time today we're gonna see when they go to Jerusalem.
Oh, they're going to
Yeah.
Jerusalem. Okay.
So as far as Yeshua is concerned, he's always grateful to be inhabited by the Christic energy, okay, which is inside him, right? But he's also very happy because there is still the ego and the personality of Yeshua, which is still
Okay.
alive.
Yeah.
And despite, what the Christic energy is pushing him to do, he can still take human and Yeshua's decisions.
Right.
So he
That's good.
feels
That's
very,
important.
yeah, it's very
That's
important. Yeah,
important because he needs to be here
right.
with
And
that.
as he said it
It's like,
very eloquently,
mm-hmm.
it is the spiritual path which has been the least explored.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think many people can claim today that on the spiritual path they had the
All
Christic
those,
energy
all that
inside them. Yeah.
experience.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure there's some people that.
So, while walking in the countryside with with this little group of men, for the most part, they meet a man riding on a donkey, and that man tells them that Yo-Hanan had been captured by the Romans
Oh.
and was going to be executed. So it is not a good.
Yo-Hanan's very vocal, isn't he? Is he really vocal? Like, what is it that he's?
Yo-Hanan is John the Baptist. Okay,
Okay.
for the people who are not following the previous episodes,
Oh, okay.
is actually very vocal, very engaged into what he's doing, and we're gonna get into more details
Okay.
about that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Yeshua is shocked by this news, although he could feel it coming, because of what you said.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure he got that somewhere.
So they needed to organize something and intervene in Yohanan's favor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Yeshua could have visited Yohanan in the astral plane, right, to exactly figure out what is
Right.
going on. But instead, he decided to let life take its own course. Okay? And I mean, Yeshua is always like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to take a radical decision or a radical solution to certain. He thinks that it's better to let life take its own course.
Right.
However, he could not find any peace in his mind. I mean, this is for him. It's really a shock.
Oh,
And
definitely.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So at night, he decides to sleep in a little shack on the beach. Again, they're on the shore of the lake.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, he hears a scream in his sleep, and that wakes him up. So it's like maybe an annunciation or some kind of signal, to wake him up.
Right. Yeah.
And he gets out of the shack and he starts walking on the beach. And again, it's nighttime, and the sky is absolutely pure, and a lot of stars are visible. There is no pollution at that time, so you can see the whole
Must have been
firmament.
so nice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
Yeah.
he watches a star detach from the sky at one point, and fall in his direction. And it reminds him of the encounter he had at the age of 5 when he was in Egypt, when the Elohim came to visit
Right.
him. But this time it's not the Elohim. We're going to see what it is. So Yeshua feels compelled to actually lay down on the sand, and he covers his body with his shawl before closing his eyes. And his soul immediately leaves his body. So he goes into the astral plane.
Right.
And in front of him, he sees a man wearing a rag around his loins. And the man is standing, and it's Yo-Hanan.
Oh, okay.
In his light body. So Yo-Hanan actually...
He has the ability to do it too.
Came
to
to visit him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, get me out of here.
And he says to Yeshua, "My brother, master, here I am. I hesitated to tell you, but they finally arrested me.
Mm.
I wanted to salute you as I know what will happen to me.
Mm.
And that's all. And the shock of hearing Yo-Hanan, is so intense that Yeshua reintegrates his body of flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the message was very short,
Right.
but Yo-Hanan
But
came in his light body to tell
strong.
Yeshua. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So our Yeshua is going to think a lot about what can be done, and he's even wondering how God could have allowed that to happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And this is something as we as human wonder many times,
Yeah,
right?
we question it. Why are the good
why
people, bad things happen to good people and nothing happens to the
to the
bad
bad people?
people?
Yeah,
And,
why do we
yeah.
let war start?
Right.
For no reason,
Yeah.
and all this stuff. So,
Right.
and in fact, Yeshua knows and understands the cosmic logic of what must happen.
Right.
Okay, basically, it's a secret balance,
Mm.
which is escaping all morality and human acceptance.
Mm.
So, and this is what we have to understand, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a cosmic law that ignores what seems to us just or unjust.
Right.
It's a law which is focused on what must be done
Mm-hmm.
beyond time.
Yeah, because we don't know what the plan is.
Yes, exactly.
So.
Yeah. And it could be also that the time it creates different timelines and so forth, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is also important. So in the morning, Yeshua talks with his small group, and the small group is basically Eleazar, always Eleazar, yeah, his right arm, Andros, and a few other solid men,
Right.
And from what they are hearing, talking to other people, and because all this group basically slept in their respective homes, so they heard it from the families and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And the Romans are not directly intervene, but the mercenaries of Herod Antipas had done it.
Okay.
So Herod is responsible for the order in that province, the province of Perea,
Mm-hmm.
where Yo-Hanan actually was doing his baptism. So we're going to be showing a map which clearly indicates where the province of Perea, and you can see that Perea also encompasses the end of the Jordan River before getting into the Dead Sea Salt.
Okay.
And not the Dead Sea
Salt.
the Dead Sea.
Dead Sea Salt, Dead Sea, same thing.
Yeah. So it's important to realize that this province is under the control of that man, Herod. And Herod is a very cruel and very barbaric being. So it's
one of many in those days.
Yeah, one of many. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Yeshua goes inside and and meditates, and he sees the place where Yo-Hanan is detained. It's a fortress of Marcharius. Mm-hmm. So again, the map will show where the fortress is located. Yeah. So that's the impenetrable fortress. And so Phillips tell Yeshua that they will not be able to get close to the fortress, right? Because Herod is a very cruel and will never accept that a group of Essenes, can come inside and see a detainee.
No peaceful people allowed here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeshua decides to walk to Jerusalem, and he thinks that by talking to the procurator of Judea, Pontius Pilate, right?
Right, Pontius Pilate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He may be able to flex Herod. Pontius Pilate may not be the only person who can actually flex and
maybe
influence,
convince him. Yeah.
Herod to know. And also he knows that in Jerusalem he has his uncle Yusuf, who is also, not very knowledgeable and has a lot of connection everywhere. So they are putting a lot of hopes, into those two possibilities. Yeah. And so 15 people, his group, are going to decide to walk with Yeshua to the city of Jerusalem. And it's interestingly enough, so on the way to Jerusalem, Yeshua decides to teach them about joy. By distracting their mind, and having them focus on natural things. Obviously, they're all, obsessed and concerned by that arrest. And so he sees, okay.
He's trying to shift that energy.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe now it's a good time to do that. Yeah. And in the sky, on the way down there, there is a cloud that looks like a face with a big smile. So he's drawing their attention to that cloud.
I thought I was the only one who saw those things. Okay.
And Eleazar is reacting to this teaching and asking Yeshua if he is joyful. He said, okay, you're trying to bullshit us, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're trying to tell us we have to be joyful, but this is catastrophic, right?
Right.
And Yeshua responds, my human heart is sad, Eleazar, but I can direct my heart on beautiful things like the blue sky or the sun shining. The goal is to prevent fear and sadness to take over.
Do you know why?
Yeah, we know why. We're not going to get into that today.
Okay, we'll get into it another day.
So the group has a hard time accepting those recommendations and teachings, And finally, they get to a point where they can stop and rest and sleep. And Yeshua studies his group, with close attention. And he sees them bickering about whether they need to have a clean robe to see Pontius Pilate, the procurator.
Get cleaned up.
Yeah, I mean, is it really? So you see them, bickering about mundane things. And he compares them to adolescents, or kids. And you realize that not so long ago, he probably was a little bit like them too, in previous incarnations.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized that what he has to teach them is the will and the discipline. Yeah. It's a group of 15 kids, basically, that he has with him. And he knows that all of them are old souls, but he also knows that the mind wipe and the slumberness that takes place at birth for every one of us can push back an awakened soul to the level of a young soul. So even if
that's scary.
Yeah, even if you're an old soul, the fact that you lost all your memories and capabilities, is hard.
So it makes it very hard to want to come back sometimes,
so
right?
They spend the night, and in the morning, the group all apologize for their conduct and behavior of the day before, And Yeshua kisses them with a big smile, and he tells them that it is joy and love, okay? And it's a love which is not described or even mentioned in the scripture and books, right? Because it's a love which is reinventing itself at all times. And as such, cannot be described by words or sentences.
Yes, just the feeling, right?
Yeah, it cannot be frozen.
Yeah.
And there are so many ways of expressing love, right? Not only the love of divine, like it is in the books. So the walk to Jerusalem is going to take them 3 days, okay, from where they are coming from. And when they arrive to Jerusalem, Yeshua sees again, the town, the city of Jerusalem, which at that time was completely surrounded by big walls. It was like a fortress. And that fortress, gives him a bad feeling.
It's like, I don't think I want to get stuck in there.
Yeah. And they're going to stop in a little Bethsaida, which is located on the side of the mountain outside of the city. So those Bethsaida, again, for the people who didn't follow the early episodes, are a little inn specifically created by the Essenes and for the Essenes, where they can rest, find some food.
What does it look like? Do we have any pictures of it?
No.
Do they describe it enough to maybe we can find
some have been described in the early episodes, yeah.
Okay.
So, sometimes it's just like a barn.
Oh, okay.
Okay, or it could be a hole in a mountain, in a cave.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they can find water, food, and a little bit of lodging and whatever they need, yeah. And Yeshua invites Eleazar, and they decide to go to the home of Yusuf of Arimathea, the uncle of Yeshua, right? To speak to him about Yo-Hanan, and it is the nighttime. So all the other 14 members of the group are staying in the bedside, but Eleazar goes with Yeshua. And so they knock on the door of Yusuf, and Yusuf is holding a lamp, and he's very surprised to see Yeshua, right? He was not expecting him. And he goes, Yeshua, Master, you here? And of course, they hug each other. Yusuf also hugged Eleazar, because Eleazar is the brother of Martha, and he's also the nephew
Oh, his nephew
Yeah,
too.
they're all
Okay,
all
so
related
kind of,
somehow.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. So Yeshua explained to his uncle Yusuf what happened, and Yusuf was not aware of the arrest.
Oh, and he lives in the same.
He lives in the city of Jerusalem, but the arrest took place in the province of Perea, which is
Okay.
further north, right?
Right,
So
but he's being held in Jerusalem.
no, he's
Oh.
held in the fortress of Marcarius.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, he's in a different place.
Okay.
And again, I was able to find some pictures of the fortress, so we will be showing that
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Yusuf tells Yeshua, it was meant to happen. There was way too much fire in Yo-Hanan. People were even saying that he supported the Iscaris, the Zealots. And again, for our audience, the Iscaris and Zealots are basically the people resisting the Roman invasion, but resisting in an aggressive way.
Okay.
With weapons. I mean, weapons, knives and swords,
Yeah.
whatever they could find. Yeah. And also, Yo-Hanan was constantly talking about a Messiah all the time, and the Messiah was going to change everything. So that irritated a lot the authorities, of that province.
They get so irritated so quickly, those guys.
So those three men, Yusuf, Yeshua, and Eleazar, are going to speak most of the night. And Yusuf tells Yeshua, I will do everything I can to free Yo-Hanan. So the following day, Uncle Yusuf is going to spend the entire day trying to talk to Pontius Pilate, the procurator, right?
Right.
And when he comes back at night, Yusuf tells Yeshua that Pilate will not intervene because the arrest took place in another province. And Pontius Pilate does not have jurisdiction in that province where Yo-Hanan was arrested. So here goes, big disappointment. Everybody is very disappointed. And Yusuf at one point tell Yeshua, if I may, yourself, you should be careful that the same happens to you. Truth is, people are starting to talk about you. All is said and modified, and you should protect yourself by meeting people in
all
high
is
places.
said and modified. You mean like rumors?
Rumors, of
Yeah,
course.
everybody's making up their own
Exactly,
story.
yeah, exactly.
Modified, yeah.
And Yeshua explained to Yusuf that he's coming to change humankind, not to fight against the Romans. Okay. Yeah. So that's not his purpose, And peace is the only kingdom that lives in my heart. And Yusuf goes, but look at Yo-Hanan. And Yeshua responds, Yo-Hanan is with himself, and his soul knows what has been decided. So you have to accept it.
Right.
Yeah. Tonight, I'm asking you to pray and to become stronger. So the following morning, Yeshua goes alone to the palace of Pontius Pilate. And so this is something that has never been reported because nobody was there.
It's probably why I didn't make it in the book.
Yes.
Yeah.
So none of the scripture, none of the, the books or whatever will ever speak about that. But Yeshua went to see Pontius Pilate. And Pilate received him with no specific purpose, as Yeshua was still very insignificant for him. And, he barely knew about him, And most likely, we can think that it is Yeshua's determination that made that meeting possible. Because, the procurator was someone very, very busy, and you could not see him like that. You had to, you have to follow the hierarchical path, right? And so, again, this is the description by Yeshua of Pontius Pilate. It may go against some of the writings, some of the scriptures, but this is what Yeshua found about the procurator Pilate. He said he was a middle-aged man, rather cold, and Yeshua did not stay long in his presence, so there was no need. Pilate was not at all concerned by anything. And Yeshua describes him as a tasteless fruit.
I have to remember that one.
A product of the Roman domination, the type of politicians that are duplicated throughout the empires and throughout the centuries. without any real identity and soul.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he's probably just a politician, a bureaucrat of
Right.
the Roman administration, you know.
Right.
And Yeshua continues saying that Pilate was a reflection of the Roman power himself, not knowing really how he got in that position. He said also that there was no evilness in the person. You know?
Oh,
He was
okay.
not a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
like Herod had a reputation of being, you know.
Right.
And coming out of the palace, you know, Yeshua understand that the futility of his request and of his, you know, going there. But he had to done it because he didn't want to leave any door closed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So when he gets back to the house of Yusuf, you know, they all jump on him. Are they going to free him, Rabbi? And Yeshua tell them, you know, they will not do it. You have to be in peace, because I will visit Yo-Hanan. And Philip said, but Herod is not Pilate. They will never let you in the fortress. And Yeshua tell Philip, you know, who told you I needed my legs to visit and speak to Yo-Hanan?
Yeah.
There are other ways of doing it,
Yeah.
right? So Yeshua is going to give himself 2 days before visiting Yo-Hanan in the fortress of Marchareus.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we will see the visit with Yo-Hanan in the next episode.
Okay.
Okay, it is not described in this one
Okay.
because we are still in the same day here.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the path between the city of Jerusalem and the Bethsaida, there was a place where all the beggars and the sick people were gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it has a certain name. I forgot the name of it, but we will find it and mention it later. And one of the sick people, you know, is crawling to Yeshua. And he was an adolescent, and his legs and arms were covered by ulcers, you know, these ulcers. I mean, something horrible. And his gaze is touching Yeshua, you know, so there is something in his eyes that touches the soul of Yeshua.
Mm-hmm.
And because the poor wretch could not stand up, Yeshua crouches in front of him. And the young man, you know, give him his hand for a coin. And Yeshua signifies him that no coin will be given.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to give you a coin. And so the young man says, why not, Rabbi? You're wealthy. And Yeshua responds, yes, I am very rich, but you did not ask me for anything. And the young man says, can't you see my wounds?
Mm-hmm.
And Yeshua says, they do not have any interest for me. And then the guy goes, then what? What is important for me is what you are not doing with your life.
Mm.
As I can see, you only care about your ulcers. So the face of the adolescent changes suddenly, you know. And Yeshua is going to do something very surprising, but he's going to slap him on the face.
Okay, that might go over well.
Yes,
Let's see.
he does that because he wants his soul, you know, to be here and to react to what is going to happen now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He wants to wake him up
Yeah.
and pull him out of his morass where he is.
His
you know?
victim, which I mean,
victimhood.
he really
Mm-hmm.
has ulcers all over his
Yeah.
body, so I mean, he's entitled.
So he asks the young man to lay down, you know, and he grabs a little bit of dirt and mixes it with his saliva, and he starts spreading it on the ulcers, you know, on the arms and the legs and so forth. And at the same time, he feels, you know, the usual torrent of energy, which is going through his body, a flow of, you know, fresh energy, full of life and healing. So he knows what's going to happen. And at that point, the young man closes his eyes, you know, to avoid crying. And all the ulcers are closing one at a time, one after the other. And the flesh is healing at an incredible speed.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
Miracles.
Yeshua is still looking at the young man, you know, but he can see that behind him there are more than 100 people watching over his shoulders.
Oh boy, word's gonna get out.
And without turning around, you know, he tells the folks behind him, folks, you will be able to tell what Awun can do when he's invited.
Okay.
And after that, Yeshua leaves the crowd, you know, crying of joy to be at the right place and to be able to serve.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as you can guess, that
Yeah.
kind of miracle is going to be talked about
Oh, it's
in the
gonna
city
be.
of Jerusalem.
It's gonna.
Yeah.
Lots of rumors are gonna
Yes, lots of
get
rumors
put out there.
and truths too.
Yeah. My goodness.
So in the
Mhm.
next episode 35, we will be talking about two major things: the astral encounter between Yeshua and Yo-Hanan.
Mhm.
You know, the last time they are exchanging thoughts. You know, actually, there will be another time later on after the death of Yo-Hanan. He will explain to Yeshua exactly what happened and why he was executed,
Mhm.
which is different again from what the scriptures are saying.
Oh, okay.
So we will present the memories of nature
Okay.
versus the scriptures,
Okay.
and people will decide what they
They
want.
could decide, right?
And the second pivotal moment will be his encounter with Mary Magdalene,
Mhm.
or Miriam of Migdal. Okay.
Okay. Oh, exciting. All right.
His future wife.
Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you back here soon.